When I travel to a new country, one thing I really love to do is I love to drive in as many different countries as I can. So when I travel to a new country, I aim to at least hire or rent a car and or borrow a friend's car or have an opportunity to be able to drive. I think it's one way that you can get an amazing experience in a country. But let me tell you how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership. Yes, if you live in the Dominican Republic, ever been to a place like this or live in a country like this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you're in Sydney and you complain about traffic, you don't know what you're in for. If you really live anywhere else, like you just don't know unless you've lived in a place like this. Driving here is crazy. Every single car on the road has dings and scrapes and everything. They drive like bumper cars here. There is so much traffic. It's crazy. It takes you so long just to get a couple of minutes up the road without traffic. With traffic, which is most of the time, it'll take you half an hour sometimes. And just the way they drive is completely different. Especially from how we drive in Australia, completely different. And so it's one thing that I had to really shift my mindset of when I moved here to the Dominican Republic was how I drive. And I've found that the lessons that I've learned on how I drive in the Dominican Republic has actually really challenged my leadership. So there's 5 key things that I've learned of how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership. The first one is set your expectations. Yep, set your expectations. Look, in Australia, as you're driving, you expect that other people follow the road rules. And that's how everything goes safely. You expect that other people are going to give way. You expect that people are going to use their indicator. And, well, we know what happens when people don't do what we expect. Usually there's a lot of horns involved and some friendly pointing that happens as well, and a little bit of a road rage. But when you're driving in the Dominican Republic, you have to set your expectations differently. Because, I hate to say it, this is somewhat of a bit of a lawless society. Yes, no, look, obviously they have laws and everyone obeys the law. It's not some Wild West here. But on the roads, it seems like it is. No rules apply. Whatever you're expecting when you drive in another country, forget it. If you're expecting someone to stop at traffic lights, forget it. If you're expecting someone to go one way up a one-way street, forget it. If you're expecting someone to give way because they've got a stop sign and forget it. Forget all your expectations. You need to set your expectations that no one's going to follow the road rules. In Australia, it's safe to drive because you expect everyone to follow the rules. But in the Dominican Republic, you have to drive, you have to set your expectations that no one is going to follow the rules. You know what, I gave this riddle to a friend of mine the other day. When you're driving up a one-way road and you're about to approach an intersection that is also one way coming from the right-hand side, so which way should you look to give way? Now, should you look right for the traffic coming up the other one-way street? Should you look behind you? Should you look ahead of you, going against the one-way street? Or should you look left, against the one-way? Well, the answer to it is all of the above. And that's crazy because in Australia, you're like, I look right because it's a one-way street to see if any cars are coming that way and I drive off. In the Dominican Republic, and this literally happened to me the other day, I was coming up to an intersection. There was a car coming the opposite direction, head on to me, and it was a one-way street. There was cars coming the other way that had a stop sign, and they were traveling the right way. But there was also a car coming down the other side against the one way. And in Australia, I would have just approached it, looked across, said, yeah, I've got right of way. There's one car there, and kept going. But here, I have to set my expectations that no one's going to be following the rules. And so I always have to be driving like no one's going to be following the rules. And that's the safest way to drive here. Expect that people are just going to stop right in front of you, in the middle of the road, in the middle of a busy road. A bus is going to stop and someone's going to hop out in the middle of a 3-lane highway. You just have to set your expectations that something random is about to happen at any time. And while this is all fun and games talking about driving, this is also real in our leadership. We need to set our expectations appropriately. Too often as leaders, we expect too much from our team. We expect too much from our people. We expect too much from our clients, from our suppliers. We expect too much. And you know what happens when you expect too much? You get disappointed. You know, there's this saying that says, if you expect nothing, you won't get disappointed. And I think it's fair. I don't know who the original person who said that, but I've heard it everywhere. And it's so true. If you expect nothing, you won't be disappointed. And the challenge is when you're operating a team, when you're leading a team or an organization, you find yourself getting disappointed by your team's behavior. Well, maybe we need to set our expectations differently. Too often as leaders, we expect our team to act like us, to make decisions like we would make decisions, to work at the same level and have the same drive as we have. Well, if we're expecting that from our teams, you're expecting way too much, because there's a reason why you're the leader. Because you have more drive, you have more vision, you have more determination. It is your organization or it is your responsibility, so you will put in more than your team will. So we need to set our expectations. There's another expectation we need to set as well, and it's based on a theory, and it's from a book by Elliot Jarks called Requisite Organization. And it talks about the levels of complexity, that every role that we have in organizations has a different level of complexity, and usually we pay accordingly. And so the person on the factory floor, their level of complexity is a lot lower than the CEO, who has to make a lot of varying decisions. We go into that theory in our free leadership development program. Yes, free plug, link below. But too often we misrepresent the level of complexity that a role should be able to achieve. We expect too much from our team. And so when we have unrealistic expectations, that's when we have unmet expectations, and then that's how we get disappointed. So as leaders, remember, we just need to set our expectations. Now, another way how my leadership has been challenged by driving in the Dominican Republic has been bikes. Yes, motorbikes. Now, I know most people actually probably get a little bit annoyed with bikes lane splitting and everything like that. And yeah, look, bikes can be annoying. I'm a fellow motorbike rider, so I have empathy towards them. But it's nothing like here. The bikes here are like cockroaches. They're everywhere. As soon as you're in traffic, they're going in and out, weaving in and out. They're not just lane splitting, they're car splitting, and they go in and out and up and down and around, and they're carrying big things, and they're just everywhere, right? And they just swarm on you, and they go up the wrong way up streets. They're really loud, like they're all on these postie bikes with no exhausts and making all these two-stroke noises up the street and smoke, and none of them wear helmets, and they're beeping their horns all the time. And look, if you live here, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't live in a place that's like that, you don't understand. But when you get here, when you first drive here, they are just so annoying. These little bikes just everywhere. You have to watch out for them. They run into you. They're literally like cockroaches everywhere. And it's so annoying. But one day I had a revelation. Because our country here in the Dominican Republic runs off motorbikes. Everyone gets around on motorbikes. Your Calmado, which is your local corner store, you just call them up and someone jumps on a bike and they bring you your avocado or your mango or your water or whatever it is that you order from the shop. Like that, you just call them up and a couple of minutes later, there's someone here on your doorstep with it. And I realized that that's how this country runs. It runs by those bikes everywhere. That's how most people get around. That's how things are delivered. And it's the core and it's the heart of this city and this country. But if I'm frustrated and annoyed with them, if I got rid of all the bikes, that means I would have to then go to the shops and get my own things. I'd have to sit in the traffic and go and get my own things. That means life would just be so much harder. And so I had this revelation that they are so annoying, but you know what? I benefit greatly from this annoying little thing. And I realized that quite often it's those annoying little things that frustrate us that actually make our life better, that actually make things run. People complain about the garbage truck making noise at 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever and waking them up. Okay, would you prefer to have a pile of rubbish at the front of your house, or would you like the rubbish truck to pick it up? Right? And so there's all these little things that do tend to frustrate us, but we've got to remember it's those little things that actually keep our organization running, keep our country running, keep our city running. And too often, I do hear leaders talking really poorly about their people. They call them stupid. They call them idiots. Oh, they're just idiots. They're always doing these, they're interrupting me. They're causing me all these problems. They're such an inconvenience, and they're not turning up, and they're not doing this, and they're not doing that. We can get really, really frustrated with those people, or we can realize that it's actually those people that actually make our organization run. They're the people that run our churches. I hear pastors all the time complaining about volunteers, but without your volunteers, your church won't run. Without that person that I know, there's that person that they seem really annoying because they're always in your pocket. They're always asking questions. They're always around. They're always asking something from you. But they're actually the person that's so sold out on the vision, and they're serving you all the time. They may be a little bit annoying, but without them, your ministry wouldn't run. Without them, your organization wouldn't run. So my encouragement to you is remember that it's those little annoying things that do actually make our organizations run. So let's appreciate them. Now, the third key of how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership is patience. Yep, all leaders need patience. I mentioned that the traffic is terrible. In here, the traffic is worse than ever. My barber is about 1 kilometer away from me. And sometimes it can take me up to 45 minutes just to get back from the barber. 1 kilometer. And if you live in a country like this and you know you'll get caught in traffic, it's very easy for us to get caught up in the frustration of it, to get angry, to start beeping like crazy, to have road rage. And I know I'm guilty of that. That's actually one thing that really ruined me when I first came to the country. When I was driving, I would always get so frustrated and so angry with all of the traffic. But I realized that, you know what, I can't change anything about this traffic. I'm going on this road, everyone else is going on this road, so I just need to relax and accept that this is just the way that the traffic is. And so instead of sitting in traffic getting all frustrated and angry that's only bothering me, I now relax, I enjoy the time in the traffic, I put on some podcast or put on some music or learn some Spanish while I'm trying to drive. And I actually appreciate and I become more patient. And I've found that patience on the road has actually transitioned into my patience in my leadership. There was something that one of my business associates used to say all the time. Peter Grace used to always say, change the changeables. Just focus on the things you can change and not the things you can't change. I'm sitting in traffic. There's nothing I can change about that. But I could have left a little earlier. I maybe could have allowed a little bit more time so I'm not so rushed. Maybe I could have organized someone else to do that while they were out. So we need to focus on changing the changeables and not worrying about the unchangeables. And so that transferred across into my leadership as well. Building our mobile app. Yes, another shameless plug, link below. It was meant to be a 5-month project and turned into over an 18-month project. And my patience was obviously challenged during that time. But as a leader, I need to understand that there are some things I can change and some things I can't change. One of the biggest challenges for leaders right now is finding good team members, finding the right team. And we can rush it, we can get impatient. But every time one of my clients has rushed hiring someone, it's turned out poorly for them. And every time that they've taken their time, waited for the right person to come along, it's really blessed their business and allowed them to grow and become better leaders and allowed the organization to grow as well, rather than just trying to rush, bring someone in without the right culture, bring someone in that we're going to invest too much time in that aren't the right people. So just remember, as leaders, we need to be patient, focus on changing the changeables, but not worrying about the things we can't change. Now, talking about sitting in traffic and changing the changeables, you don't have to sit in traffic. There is another way. And the fourth key of how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership is taking back streets. That's right. If you drive most places in the world, back streets suck. They take a lot of time. You've got to go slower. It's all this weaving in and out. You get caught at lights and everything like that. It's often easier just to stay on the main road. Well, that's not the case in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is run by back streets. There's a couple of main highways that run right through the city, but everyone takes back streets. It's all back streets. It's the right, left, in, out, and people go all over the place. And at first, it really frustrated me because I felt it was slower. But in the end, sometimes taking the back streets is better. And so we can get caught up on a highway. We can get caught up in the traffic. We can get caught up with what everyone else is doing. But if we just go the back streets, if we sometimes do things differently, it allows us to get ahead. Because the back streets are actually the secret. You know, there was this quote by Zig Ziglar that there's no traffic jams in the extra mile. You know, not many people go the extra mile, so there's no traffic there. It's kind of the same with taking back streets. There's no traffic there. Do things differently. You don't have to go in the same lane that everyone else is going in. You know, I challenge people all the time. Why are you doing it this way? And they usually respond by, well, that's just the way it's always been done. But if you take a different way, if you do things differently, it'll allow you to stand out, it'll allow you to get ahead. Our mission is to eradicate poor leadership, and it's because we have seen far too many people hurt by poor leadership. And it's usually because they're just doing leadership the way that they were shown to do leadership, and they're doing leadership the way that they were shown to do leadership. And I see it too often that everyone just does things, especially in leadership, because that's just the way it's done. Everyone just does this carbon copy, cookie cutter leadership style. And because that's what all the famous leaders do, that's how all the celebrities get their results, so that must be the right way. But we don't see the hurt people in the background. We don't see the damage that's caused by all this poor leadership that I believe is displayed by most of the great leaders. So I challenge you with your leadership is find a new way. Don't follow the way that all leadership is being done. Find a different way. Go the back streets, because the back streets are the secret to you getting ahead. And at point 5, and probably the biggest key of how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership, is fortune favors the bold. Yes, I know you've heard that quote, but it is ever so true when driving in the Dominican Republic. I told you, there's no laws here on the road. And when you approach an intersection, maybe people follow the lights, but there's a lot of intersections that don't have lights. And in most countries, well, in Australia, it's always give way to your left, you know, or always give way to whichever way you're in your country. It's like, you know that, and you merge like a zip, and you give way to give way signs. You stop at stop signs. Forget it here. Not here. They don't follow road rules. And there's no logic to the way that people are. And so you come to an intersection, and even if it's a minor road crossing over a major road, you think the main road has priority. Not here. It's fortune favors the bold. And so when you come to an intersection, it's showing how bold you are, and you're the one that gets across the intersection. You know, there might be traffic all baked up and everything like that, but you just have to force your way into that little spot and force your way through the intersection. It's just the way it's done. When I first got here, I'm normally a very generous and polite driver. I will like to give way to people and allow people to go through and find my spot. I did that and I went nowhere. I sat back, let someone go through, and because I let one person through, the next 100 dove in and then blocked the intersection. You know, no one sits back. But if I was bold and I had to push through, fortune would have favored the bold. And so that's how I drive now. And I've shifted that to my leadership as well, fortune does favor the bold. You know, the old saying of nice guys finish last. While I don't believe that's true, I believe that the nice guys may finish last, but they always win in the end. Sometimes it takes being bold in our leadership to get the results. Sometimes we sit back just waiting for something to happen, especially as Christians. Let's be honest. We have a big vision and we'll sit back and go, yeah, I'll wait for God to move. I'm going to wait for God to do something. And God's just sitting up in heaven going, I've given you the vision. I'm waiting for you to take the steps. I'm waiting for you to be bold and step out in faith. And I know that that's one thing that's really set me apart as a leader, is being able to step out in faith, be bold. I mean, moving to a different country, whenever I feel like God has called me to do something, I'll step out in faith. I'll be bold and had incredible experiences from it. And, you know, we've invested a lot of time and money in building our app, plug number 3. And doing that has been an incredible journey. But I stepped out. I stepped out in faith. I've been bold into creating this to try to do things differently with the way that we operate this app, but also the way in which we lead. We're being bold because fortune favors the bold. So my challenge to you is, as a leader, step out in faith. Has God called you to do something? Has God called you to start something? Has God called you to speak to someone? Whatever. Do something now. Be bold. Go out on a limb. Challenge yourself. Push yourself out of your comfort zone, because fortune favors the bold when it comes to leadership. So the 5 ways of how driving in the Dominican Republic has challenged my leadership is: 1, set your expectations. 2, understand it's the little things that actually make the difference. Number 3, learn to be patient with things. Number 4 is take the back street. Do things differently to get ahead. And number 5, be bold, because fortune favors the bold. I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to use this lesson to be able to step out in faith, to be able to increase your leadership influence, to be able to go and do something bold for the kingdom. And if you like this, give it a thumbs up. Put a comment below. I'd love to read your stories of your crazy driving experiences. And also, it'd be an honor if you would consider subscribing if you're looking for more faith-based leadership development content.